So I had it in my head that I wanted to make a quick video dealing with the fear of hell. If you are somebody leaving your religion, like an ex-Christian, or you've already left your religion and are dealing with some of the fallout, this is probably a common concern for you. Especially if you've seen my childhood indoctrination video, I spent most of my life fearing hell even when I was a Christian. So it's not out of the realm of what is normal when you leave a religion to still have a fear of hell even when maybe even you no longer believe. This is just because of the idea of hell as a reality is so deep-seated into us, especially when we learned that this is a reality as children, because like I said before, we believe the things we're told as children as being an absolute truth. So I want to talk about some of the things. Number one, if you are afraid of hell, first ask yourself, which hell are you afraid of? Is it the Catholic hell? Is it the Islamic hell? You know, of all the religions in the world, there are a zillion different versions of what hell is. And the answer is probably that you are, of course, afraid of the hell that you believed in previously. For example, being raised Baptist, I wouldn't be afraid of, the Muslim version of hell, because that wasn't what I believed. I was afraid of the hell of my upbringing. And so then, with that logic, you have to question yourself, if you're not afraid of the other, thousands of truths to people out there of what hell is, then you have to know, logically at least, that this is just another form of dealing with indoctrination that we've been raised with, that we've been brought into. And if you're only afraid of your own version of hell, then you know that this is still just remnants of that brainwashing and just more work to deal with, but not a true fear of hell, or else you'd be afraid of all the other ideas of hell that are out there. Number two, I want to talk about an idea that's mine alone, kind of, and maybe this only makes logical sense to me, but to me, and at least the Bible says as much. Your sacred text might be different if you come from a different religion. I'm not as well versed on other religions. But hell, in our minds, is a punishment, for bad people go there and good people go to heaven, that kind of thing. But really, biblically, hell is a punishment for non-belief. Because, for example, someone who murders someone else and then gets saved can still go to heaven, right? That's how that works. You're forgiven no matter what you do, according to this religion. Yet, you might be Mother Teresa, but because, according to Baptists, because you're Catholic, you weren't saved, and you still go to hell no matter how good you were. So hell is not actually the just people go to heaven and the murderers go to hell. It's a punishment for non-belief. And we have to question, where did this idea come from? Of course, anyone's going to say it came from their God. But this is coming from a text written by men, which, being the Bible was written politically for the day, really it's propaganda, if you look at it. The people writing these passages, of course, their aim was to convince you to believe their writings, to believe their religion. Especially back when the Bible was written, or at least like the New Testament part of it is trying to convert pagans over to Christianity at the time, and threatening people with hell for not being bad or not being good. It's for non-belief. This is the perfect way to control the masses. And if we can take a step back from our emotional connection to what hell could mean, the everlasting torment, we can look at it from a more logical standpoint of this being simply a writing of propaganda, a writing of psychological convincing of the day to get people to fall into line and come over to their belief system to avoid this hell from their sacred text. So, that said, I also want to thoroughly discuss some of the ways that this fear of hell has affected me, and not so much in what I discussed in my last video, but also just a way in which it was presented to me. So when I was in middle school, probably 6th or 7th grade, we would have chapel in our private school, and in this chapel, one day they played this audio for us, and I actually was able to remember enough of it. This person that has a terrible memory, truth be told, I can still remember this because it made such an emotional impact on me and my psychology when it comes to hell. So I wanted to share this with you in just a second. And I wanted to show you how psychologically damaging this is and how deeply it can affect us, especially when it's presented to us as children. A similar recording is, there was it was a Russian story that supposedly they dug a well to hell or something. It went down so deep and it was like 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and somehow they dropped a microphone down there that melted after 17 seconds, but they got 17 seconds of audio of people screaming and in torment, which is now debunked as having been a looping from a horror movie. But this kind of propaganda and psychological dealing has been going on for a very, very long time. So I'm going to play this audio that they showed me at about 12 years old or so, maybe younger, I don't remember, now for you. And I hope that you can imagine, what it would do to a child. I remember in chapel there wasn't a dry eye because of the pressure it put on us as children. And listening to it now, as I did yesterday as a grown-up, it's just disgusting, and it's horrible to do to a child.
What if? What if you had a friend who died without knowing Jesus as their personal savior? What if he or she went to hell? What if one day you received a letter in the mail from beyond? A letter from hell. A letter from your friend in the flames of eternal torment. The following is a dramatic presentation. It was written by a fictitious high school student named Josh to a friend named Zach. Although Zach had every opportunity to tell Josh about Jesus, he didn't. They were best friends. They played soccer together, they went to classes together, they partied together, they shared their lives with each other. But there was one thing Zach held back from Josh: his personal relationship with Jesus Christ. The rest of the story is simple and sad. A few too many beers, a tragic drive home, a crash, a death, a funeral, a letter. Here is that letter in its entirety. A letter from hell.
Dear Zach, I died today. It's a lot different than I expected. You see, I always thought dying would bring me into a world that's foggy and hazy. But this place is crystal clear. It's even more real than my life on Earth. I can think. I can talk. I can even feel. Right after the wreck, I could feel my spirit leaving my body. It was the weirdest thing, Zach. I thought I heard you screaming out to me, man. I must have been just imagining things. At first, I was just standing in line, getting registered, I guess. They asked me for my name. and began to look in this thing they called the Book of Life. I guess they couldn't find it though, because this huge angel standing next to me grabbed me by the arm and started dragging me away. I was terrified. I had no idea what was going on. I asked the angel where he was taking me, but he didn't answer. So I asked him again. Finally, he told me that only those whose names were written in the Book of Life could enter into heaven. And the rest would be condemned to hell forever. Man, I was scared. The angel threw me into some kind of holding cell where I've been sitting and thinking for a long, long time. Do you want to know what I've been thinking about? I've been thinking about you. Zach, you're a Christian. You told me so yourself. I mean, we talked about it 3 different times today. Kelly brought it up, and you laughed it off. Coach Adams brought it up, and you changed the subject. I mean, it came up right before the wreck. Well, the question I can't get out of my mind is this, Zach. Why haven't you ever told me about how to become a Christian? I mean, you say you're my friend, but if you really were, you would have told me about this Jesus and told me how to escape this terrible place that I'm headed for. I can feel my heart pounding in my chest. The angels who have been chosen to cast me into hell are coming down the hallway. I can hear their footsteps. I've heard of this hell, Zach. They call it the lake of fire. I can't stand it, Zach. I'm terrified. No, the angels are at the door. Oh no. No! They're coming in and they're pointing at me. They're grabbing me and carrying me out of the room. I can already smell the burning sulfur and brimstone. I can see the edge of the cliff where hell burns. This is it. I am without hope. We're coming closer. 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 My heart is bursting with fear. They're holding me over the flames. I'm damned forever. This is it. They have thrown me in. Fire. Pain. Hell. Why, Zach? Why didn't you ever tell me about Jesus? Signed. Your friend, Josh.
Your friend, Josh.
P.S.
Welcome.
Wish you were here.
So, yeah. I don't know if you have children or nieces or nephews, if you can imagine these 10 to 14-year-old children hearing this. And basically the shame it puts on you, thinking you're not doing enough to save your friends and your family from this torment. So I shared that with you to hopefully express that these are fears instilled in us from the time we are small, or even as adults, when you believe something as a truth. Say you didn't start going to church until you were 40. These are things that are drilled into us as a truth, and they play upon our guilt, upon our shame and regret, and they play upon our fears. Our fear of the afterlife and our fear of not seeing our family or loved ones again. And it's all brain games, and I know it is so hard to work through this, but I really hope that you can find a way and find some peace, because of my utmost truth and my deepest beliefs, you deserve peace and you deserve happiness. And if you believe nothing else that I have to say, know that you are not here to suffer in fear. You are not here to feel ashamed and regretful of your life. We all make mistakes. And to think that there's just some punishment, system in place that goes by these rules, that it doesn't matter how much good you do. It's all about whether or not you believe in something that, by the way, really is not demonstrated for us. Blind faith. And while that might work for some, not all of us are built that way to be able to abide blind faith. And I feel like I was one of them. So I can't even speak for that, but I know that there are people that can't work off of blind faith. They need some representation that what they're following is the right way and the honest way and the truth. And some, written words written by somebody we can't track down or whatever is not going to be enough for someone. You are not here to feel guilty your whole life and to be afraid. So please, I hope you find some peace. And if you still can't after this, please send me a message. Find me on Instagram. Send me a YouTube message. Find my Facebook. Friend me. Please let me help you through this, because I don't want anyone to spend one more day feeling afraid and scared. Life is so, so short and so precious, and you deserve so much more. Thank you for watching.